Howdy folks, and welcome back to ARK University. Professor Bowden Maddox here with my assistant Astrid Maddox, and we're going to talk today a lot about construction. We're going to talk about building structures. In ARK there are 3 tiers of structures. You can actually see them kind of demonstrated here. There is the thatch tier, which is the basic, lowest level learned for your Ingrams. You can learn those really quickly. You see them right here: thatch door frame, thatch wall, thatch foundation, thatch roof. Above thatch you have wood, which is the next level up, and those are a little bit further down the tree of Ingrams you can learn, but not that far. You get wooden wall, wooden foundation, that sort of thing down here. Next up is stone. Most of my base over here is built with stone. Those stone pillars, the stone foundations of the majority of my base, the stone walls up there at my house. And stone is a little further down from that, but still fairly low level. You don't have to wait too long to get to stone. Here we go, we got stone wall, for instance. Then finally, you have middle. The middle level, and we've got some middle here, we've got middle ramps. We have a middle structure on top of Emma right here, actually built with middle foundations and middle walls and middle ceilings. Thatch construction typically requires, in fact it almost always requires, in fact it does require, wood, thatch, and fiber. For instance, if we come down here and we look for the lowest level thing we've got here, say a thatch roof, we need thatch, wood, and fiber. It seems that we need the majority of thatch for items, and then fiber, and then a little bit of wood. Thatch, then fiber, then a little bit of wood. For wood items, it's typically a slightly different ratio, but it's the same 3 items. Mostly wood, then thatch, then a little bit of fiber. Once you get into stone, you add stone to the ingredients and you drop fiber. So you need majority stone, then wood, then thatch. Stone, wood, and thatch construction, different portions, walls, foundations, all of that can be built in your hand. Once you get to middle items, and one exception to a stone item, which we'll get to in a minute, you have to go to a smithy. It can either be a smithy that you've built, or a smithy that's built into the saddle of the new beaver. They also have the same Ingrams built in because they are a smithy, a mobile smithy. So if we go under structures, you see that you have stone structures, and I'll get to that exception in a minute, but you also have middle structures. And here you have things like middle gateways, middle walls, middle doorways, same sorts of things you find for stone, wood, and thatch. Just as structures go through levels of technology, there's also levels of things that you might use in constructing an area of operation, a base, for instance. One of the first things that I tend to do, and one of the things you might tend to do, is build something called a spike wall. When you first set up in an area, to keep bad things away from you, you might decide to build a spike wall. As you see, it takes mostly wood, a little bit and fiber, and a little bit of hide. So you have to get some hide from some animals in order to use them. But spike walls are very useful because you can set them anywhere. They do not require any sort of special ground. They don't have to be built on top of foundations. You don't need fence foundations for them, and they don't count as a foundation. So if you set one next to a respawning resource, it will still respawn. It will not interrupt the respawning resource. And you can chain them together. You can put another one here at any angle, and you can basically make little circles around where you're going to be building your base. It's a good thing to do in the early days, especially right when you get access to the spike wall, which is pretty low in the Ingram list. Let's see if we can find it here without having to search for it. It's going to be right there. Wooden spike wall. Fairly low on the list. As soon as you learn it, I would recommend learning it, and I would recommend using it when you're starting to set up an area before you have a chance to build better defenses or better foundations, a better structure. Later on, there is also an upgrade to a wooden spike wall called a middle spike wall, and that would be used for actual defenses when you want to defend an area later on in your level, in your experience. Your next step up from a spike wall might be a simple fence or simple fence foundations. Fence foundations come in 3 flavors. We have wooden fence foundations, as you see here, requiring, again, mostly wood, a little bit of thatch, a little bit of fiber. Stone foundations, and also middle foundations. Middle foundations, of course, need to be constructed at a smithy. So let's construct a wooden fence foundation and demonstrate. Let's construct a couple of them and demonstrate how they work. And we're also going to construct a couple of walls. And let's see, the cheapest wall we can construct here with the the ingredients we have. How many wooden walls can we construct? Just one? Let's see if we can construct more thatch walls. Sure, we can. We'll use thatch as a demonstration here. The great thing about fence foundations is they can be placed pretty much anywhere. As you see, or may not see, but there's a green. Let me change my gamma here for you so it's easier to see. There's a green outline, just like placing anything, of a simple little, looks like a wooden log. But if you were able to see it from underneath, you'd see it has some prongs sticking down as well into the ground, some posts, as it were. But if we place this wall foundation here, now this counts as an actual foundation, so this will interrupt respawning resources, so keep that in mind. And then we try to snap another one to it, you can do that. The easiest way is to point at the end of the previous foundation and start spinning to the left or right to find what angle you want the foundation to move to. If you want it straight, just snap it straight. Now you have two connecting foundations, and you can always make right turns and left turns and do weird angles, and you can freeform place them too. You don't need to snap them if you don't want to. Although keep in mind, you're going to have to kind of judge the distance if you free place them so that there's not a huge gap in the walls. Now walls of any type will snap to this. I could snap a middle wall to this if I wanted to, but I'm going to snap some thatch ones just to show you how that works. And by the way, when you're snapping things like walls, you notice if there's nothing to snap to, it's red, and then as soon as it snaps, it goes green. But if you hit your use key, which is E by default, you can flip the orientation. Right now, the inside of the wall is facing us. Here, the outside of the wall is facing us, just like the one next to it. Let's switch it to the inside and place it. Another thing to consider about the tiers of technology is thatch can easily be destroyed by dinosaurs of any type. It won't take much for them to destroy a thatch wall. If we bring up our HUD here, you can see that they have 1,600 essentially hit points or health points. Yes, even a Pteranodon, if it really got angry, could destroy a thatch wall. Now, the wooden foundation below it, you'll notice, has more, has 10,000. So once you move up to wood, it's a little tougher, but dinosaurs of any type can still destroy wood if they are aggressive enough, and other players as well. I mostly run PvE here, but if you're on a PvP server, keep that in mind as well. Thatch is much easier to destroy. Stone, however, is much harder for a person to destroy, but they still can. But dinosaurs, most dinosaurs cannot. Certain dinosaurs can. Alphas can. The Giga, like over here, Giganotosaurus, it can also destroy them. So be very careful about that. Metal structures cannot be destroyed by any creatures currently in the game, with the exception, possibly, of a boss. The only way you can destroy a metal structure if you're in a PvP environment is with explosives. We talked earlier about how thatch and wood and stone items can be constructed in your hands with one exception. That one exception, if you look on the smithy that is the saddle for the beaver, is the behemoth stone gateway, stone dinosaur gateway. And if you look, it requires 450 stone, 450 wood, and 450 thatch for each of the items, the door and the door frame. And they can only be constructed here on a smithy. So let's talk about bigger structures. Let's take some stone foundations, for instance. These are actual foundations which you can construct in your craftables. It's an engram. If you scroll down to your stone objects for construction, you'll find them right here. They require 80 stone, 40 wood, and 30 thatch. Typically, this is the strongest one you're going to use in a PvE environment, since, as I said, most dinosaurs and most animals cannot destroy them, except for alphas and gigas. So let's go here to the top of this rise, and let's plant a foundation here. Really nice. Now, if you want to do another foundation, you can see that they'll snap to each other in many different directions. If you ever notice a red on a snap, think about a few things. First of all, bring up your HUD and it'll have it tell you why you can't do that. In this case, it says obstructed. By default, your HUD will be up. Mine was down just to reduce the clutter on my screen. It says you can't place it because it's obstructed. Well, it's obstructed because I'm standing in it. If I back up a little bit, you'll see it goes green. So don't immediately think if it's red that you just can't put it there no matter what. Just think about it. Move around, try it from a different direction, try to place it from over here, see if it'll work. Sometimes it will. So let's go ahead and place another foundation right over here. And let's go ahead and try to do another one. And wait a minute, what's going on here? It doesn't want to snap. And if I try to place it in here, it says it's obstructed. It'll let me place it down here, but it's not in the line with that one. That's because in ARK, foundation snap points are It's straight, linear, I guess you'd say. If you want to place a snap out here, you can, because there's still ground underneath for it to touch. But over here, you can't, because there's no ground underneath at that height. If I was to stick this other foundation out here, there's no ground for it to touch at that height. So it lowers it to the next level, the next place where it can touch the ground, which is here. Now, there are ways to continue your building out if you run into that situation. And that would be to use ceilings as foundations. So we'll go over here and we'll grab some more ceilings. I have a bunch of ceilings. I have some wooden ceilings. We'll use those for now. Okay, if I now bring up a ceiling, you'll see that it allows me to snap that ceiling out here. Now, one thing you'll notice is that even if this was a stone ceiling, there would still be a slight bump here, so it doesn't look quite the same. So one thing you might want to consider when you're placing your building is try to find an area that is fairly flat. It's flat enough to accommodate your entire structure. And if you can't find something that's flat enough, you should start placing your foundations at some sort of a middle ground, not at the lowest and not at the highest, somewhere in the middle, and hope that it will allow you to place the foundations as the ground goes up and goes down to either side of your foundation. Now, if I'm placing ceilings out here, say I want to go all the way out to the water, it'll let me place 2, but when I go to place the third one, it says, wait, I need foundation support. The thing is, these 2 ceilings are being suspended by this foundation. It allowed you to place this first ceiling because there's a foundation here. It allowed you to place the second one because it's within 2 of a foundation. That's kind of the rule in ARK. Now, a way you can continue extending your ceilings, or your floors in this case, is to use pillars. Let's grab some pillars. Now, these are wooden pillars. There's also stone pillars and metal pillars in the game. So I'm going to place a stone pillar here. I'm going to attach it. It's going to snap, as you see, to the ceiling, the last ceiling, and it's going to touch the ground. If it wasn't touching the ground, I'd have to put multiple pillars down until it touched the ground. And now, it will allow me to extend my ceilings. It'll allow me to extend my ceilings by 2, because the pillar is considered a foundation in ARK. So now if I try to place another ceiling, of course, if I had another one, and I think I do, I think I have a thatch ceiling in here. Let's go through one of those. I have several thatch ceilings. If I try to place one of these, it's going to say, no sir, no foundation. So I would have to draw another pillar down, snap another one in here to continue building out. And that's true about left and right as well. I can come out another ceiling from these, but if I try to go again another one, it'll let me do it, but now it won't let me do it because I'm too far away. So I would have to put a pillar here. And the pillar, that's a bad placement. So let's go ahead and demolish that. If I place a pillar here and make sure that it's actually the lower placement and touching the ground, I can now place another ceiling, as you see, or another floor in this case. So I've now got a pretty crazy structure here with some foundations and then some wooden and thatched ceilings supported by pillars connecting to it. So I can start putting up some walls, some windows, some doors as well. In fact, let's try this. Let's come over here and let's place another foundation. Go ahead and snap it right there. And in fact, we'll place a couple more foundations. So now I have a little bit of a square building here. Let's go ahead and put some walls up. I've got a bunch of thatch walls. We'll use those. And again, when you go to snap it against the foundation, which it will snap to, you see that right now it's facing, the inside is facing us. If you hit your use key, it'll flip it around. Typically, you want the inside facing inside. That's a foundation. That's a wall. Now, we also have the concept in here of window frames. Let's see if I can make, there we go. A little bit of lag on the server there. Sometimes that happens on servers. You see I have a window frame. I can just look through this window frame just fine. Animals can see me through this window frame. Violent animals and attack. They'll probably hit the window as opposed to me, but they can see me through the window. So one thing you might want to do is you might want to get a actual window and place it in there. When you have a window in there, you can open it and close it just like a door. And you can open and close it from either side if you have the access to do so. Now, if another tribe has got this in place, you're probably not going to be able to do it unless you know that tribe's PIN code, if they've set a PIN code on it, or if they've left it unlocked. You can leave windows and doors unlocked by doing that, holding down your use key and selecting lock or unlock. You can also set a PIN code. If I type in the PIN code 1111, I'm typing that on my keyboard, or I can set the PIN code by clicking on the numbers. And then if somebody else came along from another tribe and went to this door, it would ask for the PIN code. If they typed in 1110, it would open this window, pardon me. Now we also have door frames. Here's a thatch door frame. We'll place that one right here. And we have a thatched door to put in place of it. And it behaves similar to the windows. You can lock them, you can unlock them, and you can set PIN codes. Same way. We also do have stone construction here. We have a stone doorway, and we have a stone window frame. They serve functions very similar to the wooden ones, but they have special doors as well called reinforced doors. Here's a reinforced window, and I'll make a reinforced door for you on the spot to show you how those are made. We bring over some thatch, some wood, and some stone, and we go to the reinforced door, which is right here, and we construct that. We can then place it in the doorway. It just looks much nicer. You can put a wooden, by the way, you can combine things. You can put a thatch door in a stone or wooden doorway, and you can put a wooden window in a stone or wooden window frame. There is no thatch window frame. And you can do the other way around too. You can put this reinforced door into this thatch doorway if you wanted to, or into a wooden doorway. No problem. And they have the same functions as the others. Lock, unlock, set pin. Okay, we also have, to demonstrate, we have a middle wall. Middle walls can be placed anywhere. You can combine, as you see, materials. Right? I can place this middle wall here, no problem, on a stone foundation next to a wooden wall. It doesn't care. It may not look the prettiest, but it doesn't care. We've also got these ceilings. And if we want to go one high, we can place some of these ceilings. Drag more of them down here. And we've also got some more walls. Now, if I wanted to, I can construct one more wall to close this building up. And in fact, I will do that. And I will do that by demolishing some of these ceilings to get some more materials. When you demolish building materials like this, you get back roughly half of the materials that you used in constructing the item. So we're going to go ahead and construct another. It could be a thatch wall, it could be a wooden wall. We will do a thatch wall. And look at this. Notice how this foundation is so high that I can't quite get in there. Well, there's something in the game called ramps. There are wooden ramps, and there are metal ramps. There are also sloped ceilings, sloped roofs, which you can get into if you want more advanced construction. The sloped roofs can work as ramps, but they typically need an angled roof piece, or an angled wall, pardon me, to anchor to. So you'll want to definitely make sure you have that. So I'm going to go ahead and try to construct a wooden ramp real fast to demonstrate the ramp capabilities. There we go. I didn't actually transfer those. I'll transfer those. I'm transferring those by hovering over and holding T, or hitting T on my keyboard. And that transfers whatever I'm hovering over back into the animal's inventory in this case. Okay, so let's come back over here. Let's place our ramp. And you see now that I can walk straight up into that foundation, which is really nice. Now let's place our last wall. And I want to demonstrate something else about construction. Notice, first of all, that it's facing the wrong way. So I hit my use key, it'll face the right way. But also notice, it's not in line with that other wall. Why is that? Well, the reason it's not in line with that other wall is it was actually snapping to this foundation, not this foundation. And there is a way to make it snap to that foundation. For that, we're going to have to create one more wall. Okay, we have our new wall. And if I bring that up, you'll notice that it's trying again to snap initially to that far foundation. But if I lower my mouse or if I walk back a little bit, you'll see that it now wants to snap to I'm pointing at. You notice I'm actually pointing at this foundation. This is the foundation I want it to snap to, and it snaps to this foundation. If I raise my pointer up and point to the other foundation, it tries to snap to that one. And even if I flip it, it's still out of alignment with the other wall. So if I come down here and I point it at the foundation I want and make sure it's facing the right way and go ahead and place it, it's going to place perfectly and it's going to line right up with this one. Now, as soon as I did that, you may have noticed that in the right side of my screen, around the middle of the right side, a little house appeared, a little green house. That means that I am in what the ARK game considers a complete structure, a house. It's giving me a home buff. And that buff reduces or increases, advances my insulation. So let's go ahead and look at that actually. Let's come out here, look at those numbers, 225, 322 for our insulation factors. And there's another video where I talk about this earlier in the series, so go check that out. 225, 322. In here, 337, 378. You saw it increase as soon as it registered that I was in a house. It gave me a house buff. So that's a great thing about making a complete structure as well. Now this house is very functional, very square, but you can do a lot of decorative things with construction now in ARK as well, and there's more to come too. The developers have promised even more. For instance, if I was coming out here in this deck and I wanted to add a railing to it, I can actually build wooden or stone railings. In this case, I'll build a wooden one and place it here. And I can actually not, I can bump up to that. I can't walk across it. I can actually, if I'm running at it and jump, I can actually make it over that. But it serves as a nice decorative and functional barrier. And you can actually put railings on top of railings, or you can put railings on top of walls to make it even more functional or decorative. There are other things such as torches, standing torches, wall torches. There are trophy mounts. There are all sorts of things that you can use to decorate your world. Here, for instance, is an example of a bunch of wooden rails stacked on top of each other to make it a little lattice between pillars. And a cool little decorative effect. Also, trophy mounts. These are mounting alpha T-Rex trophies from kills of alpha T-Rexes. There are wall torches, and there is furniture, such as up here in my home. You will see that there are nice beds, of course, bunk beds, but there's also benches, tables, and out here on my porch, which has a bunch of wooden railings around it, there are chairs where you can enjoy the view. I talked about the different technology layers of construction materials: thatch, wood, stone, and metal. There is a new one that was added to the game, and that is glass for greenhouses. Now, greenhouses have special purposes that allow crop plots to have advanced bonuses, what they call the greenhouse effect. You can see down at the bottom in dark green, it says greenhouse effect 300%. It makes these crop plots grow much faster, use less, I believe less water, but definitely less fertilizer, and overall be really effective at growing crops. Now, you don't have to just use these for greenhouses. You can actually use these in your other construction if you want to have glass in your construction. For instance, I have stone walls and stone window frames here, but I put glass windows into them. Now, they don't mesh perfectly with stone, but they're still kind of cool because you can see through them. Lastly, I'd like to talk about dinosaur gateways. These are big doors, not like the little person doors, that allow dinosaurs to either get in or keep them out like that guy. He's not one of mine. You can place dinosaur gates anywhere on the ground. You notice I have green here. I can spin around. I can go crazy. I can figure out where I want it. I can put one next to each other. I'll show you that in a second. I can put them right where my animal. Well, not quite where my animal is, but pretty close. I'm obstructed by other animals or by other bits of material often, and it'll go red and tell you why. But I can place this pretty much anywhere. I can also place it on foundations if I want it to snap. If I have foundations already lined up somewhere and I want to get the gateway to snap to those foundations, I can just do this. Put the foundations down. You notice it's actually kind of snapping. It's not moving smoothly. It's actually kind of twitching into a position. And I can even do angles against this snap point, as you saw, including straight back at me. Now, you don't have to use foundations for that. We also have the big ones, the behemoth gateways. They also can snap to foundations, as you see here. It's kind of snapping around. But also, they can be placed anywhere. So let's demolish these foundations really quickly here. Actually, get rid of them. I want to show you some freestyle placements of gateways. I've got a couple of dinosaur gateways here. And one really good way to know whether or not you're aligned to what you want to be is when you're placing a gateway, either a small one or a behemoth one, point at the ground and hit K to bring up your K mode, and then scroll out. And you can get a great view, a bird's eye view of what you're trying to place. Now, of course, if you have to twist it left or right, you have to actually kind of hold your mouse still, hit your K mode, and move, and then come back into K mode. And you can see what you've done. So say I wanted one right here. Excellent. Now I can place another one by simply coming over here. You see how they're kind of snapping to each other? And you see how it wanted to snap to that one? But you notice it's also backwards? It's a different orientation from the other gateway. Not always a good thing to do. So say I wanted to snap another one to these. One really surefire way, if I wanted to do two in a line, is to just come a little ways away from it, point at it, bring up the gateway, walk back a bit, and there it is. It's perfectly lined up now. If I was to place it, it would be lined up straight. I can also do angles by just moving my mouse a little bit. But if I'm coming straight away from it, I can always line it up pretty effectively, pretty straight, like that. There we go. Now that one is also backwards from this one. And that's probably because of the way I placed it. But you'll have to play with that. You'll have to place it from different directions. If I had placed this one from this side, it would probably place right. Of course, these come with doors as well. Big dinosaur gateways that you can walk your dinos through. I do believe a beaver can fit through this. Let's see. Yeah. There are some animals who can't fit through these small ones, though. Mammoths. Stegos can. That Giga, no way. A Bronto, no way. A Rex, no way. A Spino, no way. So you need the big behemoth gates for those guys. And that's these guys. And they are much bigger than you might think. Let's point at the ground. Bring up K mode. Look how big that is. You can't even get really to the top of it. So you have to kind of eyeball things. Say I want to turn a little bit that way. Say I want to turn back that way. And I want to kind of try to line it up a bit with this one. You kind of move around in K mode. See everything lined up. Pretty good. Go ahead and place it. And then there's a big doorway for that, which I did not construct, but they're easy to construct on a smithy. 450 wood, 450 stone, 450 thatch. So I hope this lesson on construction helped you a little bit. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.